So like since forever you always compared real estate to history, and you've spoken about how real estate is about like you compare it to kingdoms and kings. So that's why when I was reading a book, I really loved the chapter on history, because like generally people don't compare it to real estate and history much, and like that chapter was really interesting to me, especially like when there was a point about Margaret Mead, where she made a point about how the first sign of civilization was when they found a broken and healed bone. So why do you think that that was the first sign of civilization?
So according to me, civilization equal to real estate, and real estate is equal to civilization. When we were just like trying to explore our civilization, the caves were the first real estate.
Correct.
People used to own. So that was a naturally inhabited place where you could protect yourself from animals, weather, kings, So that cave was your first real estate. Now, if you look at civilization, what do you need in civilization? You need better food. You need better clothes. You need better things to buy. You need better places to live. You need improvised lifestyle.
Correct.
In the initial stages of civilization, there were no toilets inside the house. Later on, today you have toilets inside your house. So that is an improvised civilization.
Correct.
So when I compare the history, that time whoever did better research and whoever created better real estate, better fort, strong houses, like when you go to Rajasthan and when we went to Jodhpur and Jaisalmer, we saw the live fort.
Yeah.
So they used to create the houses on the fort, so then enemy cannot attack. Because that time protection was the main criteria.
Correct.
The king used to provide protection, and accordingly, people used to fight with each other for real estate.
Correct.
So that time protection was very important. So any place which was more protected, stronger, had more value for real estate. So the kings used to aspire to acquire that by showing that I am powerful than you. And people who were weaker than that used to take their protection. That was the ecosystem of civilization.
Correct.
And there were traders, very few traders who used to trade from one place to other. And there were restriction on traveling from one place to other. Now there is a civilization which is improved, where the borders are protected by the countries, but you can travel very freely. You can borrow technology freely. So today's civilization is very different.
Correct.
So when I say civilization, means if you need a house for a king, equal to real estate. If you need a place for education, equal to real estate. If you need a place for sports, equal to real estate. If you need a place for any kind of traveling activity, fort, airport, railway station, equal to real estate. So that's why I say that if you look at the history, you will come to know that how our real estate also has come up to place where we are. And there was a time, the main point which I always try to make is that 26th January we celebrated recently, Republic Day and Independence Day. Independence Day was that we got independence from the rulers.
Correct.
But what was the Republic Day? Republic Day gave you some rights. And what is the main right given to you? Which you never had before that, was to own your own house, to become your own king.
Yeah.
And there is so much of pride when you say that right I got. Today, builder is an instrumental between implementing that policy or giving that right to the last man. Builder has a very limited role. Builder is not a king. It is that person who buys the house and stays there for years.
Correct.
Gets that pride to live like a king.
So basically putting a safe roof over people's head for education, medical reasons. Those are the first signs of civilization.
All that are signs of civilization. Builder is an intermediary. As per the policy of government, government makes roads. Maybe builder will or a contractor will make roads. Contractor will make education institutes. But government will pay for it from the common fund. If you're making houses, the common man will pay from his own fund. Correct. Who is buying the house. So according to the structure, according to the, like in real estate, when you have to make a house, builder will buy a plot. He will take all the approvals. Then he will construct. He will hand over to the buyer who will pay for it. And then they form a society which is run on a democratic format.
Correct.
And they own the society like a king.
Yeah.
And they run it like a democracy. So that is the constitution of our country which we got on 26th January.
Correct. So what only kings could do before, now anyone can do, and everyone
is a king.
Have their own kingdom.
Yes. Today you don't have a king. Prime Minister is your first servant.
Correct.
He is not a king.
Yeah.
He is an elected nominee who is your first servant. Citizen is a king in democracy.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So now when we're talking about such old civilizations, now I recently went to Banaras, and like Banaras is one of those civilizations which has been habitable since the longest time.
Yes.
So what was your experience like, and what do you think about, like?
See, if you look at that real estate, it was a real estate which was always protected on religion. The religion was very strong. So that city was never invaded or destroyed by any king, because every house had big temples. So people used to get scared of destroying so many temples at a time. That's why that real estate was always protected. The people staying there were protected if they worship God, and the God used to protect them. They had their own protection.
Correct.
And that's why for centuries that city was never invaded, but it was always flourishing because it was always the same. It was never invaded. People were making houses, they were living, and they were earning, and they were staying happily.
So it not being invaded, so how does that relate to real estate?
That is that made it very safe, and because it was safe, the real estate cost went up.
Okay.
But today, when I went, I was a little disturbed to see that houses were empty.
Okay.
People were not staying because they were old type houses.
Yeah, there was no urbanization.
Yeah, it was a heritage city, but people had moved away from that because very narrow roads, very narrow houses, very small houses, not very planned.
Yeah.
So people have moved to better houses. People have moved to better civilization.
Correct.
People are become educated. They move to cities for opportunities, but houses are still there. So that was my experience of Banaras. But when Banaras was there in the previous history, it was most expensive real estate.
Correct.
River facing real estate.
Yeah. And safety
safe and river facing real estate was always a expensive real estate. But today it has lost its charm.
And now when we're talking about history and kingdoms and stuff, in the end you mentioned one quote that history is all about real estate. So like, why do you think history is all about real estate?
Because any building you make stays there for more than 100 years.
Okay.
If you make a good quality building, it stays there for more than 100 years.
Yeah.
And that's why that builder would stay there for 5 years, 6 years till the time it is constructed. After that, it becomes national property.
Right.
Before independence, it was king's property. Now it becomes national property, Sarvajanik property. And previously, the kings, whatever they made, like they created forts, they created temples. Today, you go and see there to know what civilization it was and how history was. And similarly, I feel the buildings which you are making today, you're going to stand there for 100 years. So our future generation will come and see that building, how you made it.
Part of their history.
Part of their history.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
So real estate is always part of
it. Real estate is like one product or one thing that is always standing and is there for a long time.
Yes.
And it's there for people to see, like big monuments, or whether it be like structures like Burj Khalifa or something which are going to be there for a long time and they're going to be historical.
So people will remember he had made this building.
Yeah.
And somebody who will now see it in say 100 years hence, how will you look at it?
Yeah, that was the first that building that tall.
Like you go to Leaning Tower of Paris. What is it? It is a tower which was made by that builder and the king. But today people go and see it like
It's
It is a monument.
Yeah. Correct.
But it's a real estate, right? That was a real estate constructed that time.
Yeah. The people generally don't understand like the historic value of real estate.
Yes.
Correct. Now this puts the entire chapter into a lot more perspective.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we're relating history to real estate, what is your one real rich tip to people, concerning history?
See, concerning history, one very important tip which I would like to give here is that people have to recognize that kings who were rulers or emperors now have converted into a prime minister who calls himself servant.
Correct.
Similarly, people now think builders are the emperors, but builder is again a servant of the constitution who is doing the work on behalf of the government. But the real emperor and the pride of owning a real estate should go to the buyer.
Correct.
He is the new king. He is the new emperor of his own kingdom.
Correct.
So it is not about buying a car or a mobile or a shirt, but it is about your pride. It is about creating your history.
Correct.
Because that real estate which you're going to create or buy, you can pass it on to your generations.
Yeah. And it's going to be in the family.
In the family for years together. So people have to understand the difference between buying a car, scooter, mobile and a real estate. And to create a history for yourself, you have to work hard. People get scared. I have to work for 10 years. How do I pay EMI if I don't get a job? People get scared of creating history. You are buying a real estate. You're creating a history. You are buying a pride. Don't get scared. Work hard.
Correct.
Instead of working hard, they get scared.
Correct.
So my realist tip is that government is supporting you. Government is working for you. Builder is working for you. Then why can't you work for yourself and buy it?